In this video, I'm going to show you how to actually use textures within your Redshift material using Metalness workflow. So in the previous tutorial, I showed you using nothing else but basic setup, just the colors and the values that are part within the material itself. And now we're going to swap all that with using textures. Here I have a set of textures that I'm going to use, and I got all of these from textures.com. You can download PBR materials from there, and I have albedos, normal maps, roughness, and when we set up a metallic material, I also have a metallic texture with it as well. And I'm going to show you how to hook these up correctly. So I'm going to show you two different types of materials, one non-metallic and one metallic. And then I'm going to show you another one where there's a slight variation between the two, where the material has kind of both properties, parts that are metallic and parts that are not. So let's begin. Here's the same scene I have from the previous tutorial. It just includes two basic spheres and two simple planes that we can apply our materials onto and test. For lighting, I'm going to use a dome light, a Redshift dome light, with an HDR image applied onto it for illuminating a scene. And if you want to learn how to set this up, check out my other tutorial on HDR lighting with Redshift. So let's go ahead and set up a non-metallic material first. I'm going to open up Hypershade. And let's create the non-metallic material. I already have two in here that I'm not using, so I'm just gonna go ahead, select them, and delete them from the scene. So anytime you use Redshift render, you should be creating Redshift materials. So let's go ahead, create a Redshift material. Right here on the left hand side, click on Redshift, and create a Redshift material. Let me go ahead and regraph this so we only see what we are working with. I'm gonna go ahead, right click, hold, and choose Graph Network. Let me go ahead and rename this first. I usually keep the RS prefix to tell me this is a Redshift material, and I'm going to name this non-metal texture. The first thing I do when using Metalness workflow is I change BRDF to a different reflection model to a newer version, GGX, and then I change Fresnel type from IOR to Metalness. This is the important property that kind of makes this material and changes it to a Metalness workflow. You'll have a new property open up that we'll use when we set up a metallic material. So the first thing you want to do is decide, is this a metallic material or a non-metallic? And if it's a non-metallic material, which we are creating now, you do not need to plug anything in here or change this. 0 will mean that this material is non-metallic. And if it was metallic, you would change it to 1. And of course, if you have a texture, you would plug in a texture to use to tell this material which parts are metal, which parts are not. Let's set up our textures. For a non-metallic material, you just need 3 to start with: color or albedo, roughness, and a normal map. Let's connect our albedo or color. Under diffuse, you'll see color. Click on this checker icon right here, then choose file, and then under image name, click on the folder icon. This will take you right into the source images folder of your project. And here I'm already inside source images into textures folder. And I'm just going to choose my albedo that I'm going to use. So for this non-metallic material, I'm going to use this right here, block bear. And I'm going to choose my albedo. And as soon as you do that, it's hooked up. And that's it. For albedo, that's all you need to do. Then let's hook up our roughness. Roughness controls how shiny or how dull your material is going to be. And there's usually a texture associated with it, and I already have mine. So you want to go ahead and select your main node. So you jump back into this main property window right here. And to connect a roughness texture, you need to be under reflection and this roughness property right here. Click on the checker icon, choose file, and under image name, open the folder, and then choose the appropriate roughness texture. In this case, it's this one right here. Open that up. Now for roughness texture, there's one thing you need to change right away as soon as you connect the texture into the image name property, and it's the color space. The color space for this texture needs to be set to raw, not sRGB. All roughness textures don't have any color properties to them. They're a grayscale texture. They're linear color space. So we need to change this to raw from sRGB. That's the first step. And then the next step, we need to actually connect one of the channels, the green, the red, or the blue channel, from the roughness into our material. So by default, if you take a look at this node, it will have out alpha connected into the reflection roughness. And what we really want is only one of the channels, the red, the green, or the blue. So to do this, just click on this plus icon right here, out color, to enable so you can see the visibility of red, green, and blue. And we just need to left click, hold, and drag one of these. And in my case, I'm going to choose the red and reconnect it back into reflection roughness. This is very important that you do that. Otherwise, this roughness texture is not going to work properly. And that's all we need to do for our roughness. And before we connect our normal map, let's take a look at what this looks like inside the renderer. I'm going to go ahead and close this window down and just take these 4 objects, and I'm going to apply our material that we just created. I'm going to right click, assign existing material, and let's choose our rest on metal texture. And let's take a quick look at the render. And here we have our albedo and our roughness applied to the objects, and they look correct. Now, in order to see what the roughness actually looks like, you need to look at it from a certain angle. So when the light hits it, you will really see the effect of the roughness texture. So I'm just going to circle around. Let me go ahead and activate IPR. And I just need to look at it at a certain angle, and we can actually see a lot better on these spheres. Alright, let me show you how to hook up a normal map. I'm going to bring back the hypershade. Our material should still be in here. I'm going to select the main node to get access back to the property editor window. And to hook up a normal map, you need to scroll down under overall, open that up. And it's going to be this bump map property right here. Go ahead and click on the checker icon and find the file. Usually with this window, for the normal map, you need to scroll down a little bit. It's going to be file right here. And in this window, under input, click on this icon right here. It looks like a box with an arrow. Click on it, take you to a new window, and here you'll have image name. And we can click on the folder, bring up the same window, and then we have our normal map to choose from right here. So for the normal map, we have to do the same thing for color space. We need to change it from sRGB to raw. This is very important to do this for the normal map as well. Then we need to go up one level, which was the window before this little property editor window here. So in order to get access to this, I just simply need to come over to our graph editor and select the node where RS bump is connected to. So this is going to be the texture property window where we change the raw, but I need to select the RS bump map node to get access to that window before. So if you ever need to kind of choose the window you are working with, you can select any of these nodes for that window to pop up. And for the bump map or for the normal map, you have kind of 2 properties you need to change things in. So we changed our raw color space, RS bump map node, and then here it's very important that you change input map type from height field to tangent space normal. Most of normal maps that you download or use will be authored and created in tangent space. So I'm going to go ahead and select tangent space normal. And then you also need to change height scale from 0.01, which is the default, to 1. This will basically take the normal map and display it at its default value in which it was created in. And you can kind of see already it's affecting our plane in the render. So these 3 properties for the normal map you have to change and set up. So it has to be raw color space, and the bump map node itself needs to have tangent space normal and height scale set to 1. And we already have it applied to our plane and all the objects, so let's take a look. And here we have a normal map. So we have our albedo, correct roughness, and the normal map all working together to create a non-metallic material. And the last property before we move on to another material type, and that's going to be adjusting the intensity for the normal map. And that's done back in the hypershade, or we can actually open up the attribute editor and do it here. But let me go through the hypershade since we've been using this all along. Just simply reselect the RS bump map node and increase the height scale. So the default value of 1 usually is good, but sometimes you need to increase the height map of your normal map. So if you bump it up to 2, it's going to intensify the properties, the values of the normal map, and increase its intensity. So that is how you set up a non-metallic material with just 3 basic textures and get it rendered in Redshift. Now let me show you how to set up a metallic material. The only difference is we have a metallic texture that defines which parts are metal, which parts are not. And for this one, pretty much everything is going to be metal. So you can think of a metallic texture as a mask, where through black and white values, it tells you what's going to be metallic and what's not. Let's go to Hypershade again and set that up. I'm going to create a whole new material. Go to Redshift, Redshift material. I'm going to name this really quick, RS Metal Textures. And let's go ahead and regraph it. Right click on this and graph network. First thing we need to do is make sure we have the RS main material node selected. So we have the property editor open up, and we need to change BRDF to GGX and Fresnel type to Metalness. I do this for every material I create, with some minor exceptions if I'm working with glass. And then we need to set up the same exact network as we did before for a non-metallic material. Just simply plugging in the color, the roughness, and the normal map. So I'm going to go through this really quick again, and that way you can see it, see what I'm doing, just in case you need another repetition of showing you how to set that up correctly, especially for the roughness and the normal map. So I'm going to go ahead and select the RS Metal texture node itself. Let's go to color, checker icon, go to file, go to image name, folder. And for this, I have a texture that I'm going to use, and it's going to be this metal tread plate. And just choose the albedo. And that's all we need to do for the albedo. I'm going to select the RS node again, and then let's connect our roughness. Under reflection, roughness, checker icon, file, folder, and then choose our roughness. And then I need to make sure that our roughness texture is set color space to raw. Then come over to the roughness texture node, out color, click on the plus icon, take one of the channels. I'm going to take the red channel and reconnect it back into reflection roughness. And we are done with the roughness map. Select the main node again, and let's connect our normal map. Scroll down to overall, bump map, checker icon, scroll down to file, input, click on this icon in order to go and ability for you to choose the normal map, image name, folder, and now select your normal map. Set color space to raw. Then select the main RS bump map node to go back into the previous menu. Input map type, change it to tangent space normal, and change height scale to the default value of 1. And that's all we need to do for now. So I want to apply this as is, and now we're going to go through and connect our metallic texture. So let me close this down for a second. I'm going to select all of our objects, right click, hold, assign existing material, and then choose RS Metal Textures. And let's do a quick render. Let's go ahead and enable IPR, and I'm just going to zoom in a little closer and get a different angle so we can see. Alright, so this is all is good and nice, but we don't have the metallic texture hooked up yet. So the normal map is working correctly, the roughness and albedo are all shown through, but we need to apply a texture, a metallic texture, to define which parts are metal, which parts are not. So let's jump back into the Hypershade, select our main node, and for you to use the texture, metallic texture, it's going to be found under reflection, Metalness. So in the previous tutorial I told you to change this from 0 to 1. If it's metallic, it's 1. Non-metallic, it's 0. But since we have a texture to it, let's go ahead and assign it instead. Click on the checker icon, select file, go image name, folder, and then choose the metallic texture. Just like you did for the roughness, we need to change color space to raw, because metallic texture is also created in linear space. It's a grayscale value. And then we also need to connect one of our out color red channels, green or blue, whichever one, just one, and reconnect it into the same input. So it should not be out alpha. Now in the current version of Maya that I'm using, which is 2020, what I'm seeing in the main node, it's a kind of like a visual bug that it shows you that my metallic texture out alpha is being connected up to somewhere that you can't really tell what it is. So this is just a display visual issue. So if you select the main node and hit 1, 2, 3, or 4, this will kind of cycle you through different options for that material and how many inputs that you get to see. So 1 will just close everything down. 2 will only show you what's available and what's being used. 3 gives you pretty much everything that's available for that material. And 4 just shows you like the most important ones. So 4 is what gives you this kind of visual display issue. So if you switch to 2, it puts you only what's being used. And now you can see I have reflection metalness available to me to reconnect. So I'm going to open up out color, take the red channel, and redrag it and reconnect it into reflection metalness. And that's it. That's all we need to do for metallic. So again, to reiterate, you need to change the color space to raw, and you need to reconnect just like you did for the roughness. Take one of the channels and reconnect it back into reflection metalness. And you can already see that we have metallic properties show up. Let me go ahead and close this. And let me navigate into a better view so we get to see how metallic it actually is. So again, different angle depending on the lighting situation of your image or whatever lighting you're using. You just have to put your camera in a different angle so you get to see it a lot better. So the only difference between metallic and non-metallic is setting up that metalness property with a texture. And the last option I want to show you is if you have a metallic texture that has a different variation of black to white, so it clearly displays which parts are metal, which parts are not. The thread metal that I showed you is pretty much all metal, but for this example I'm going to show you like a combination of wood and metal together. So wood is not metallic and the metal parts are metallic, and it's all going to be done through a metallic texture and how it looks. So let me show you what that metallic texture looks like. Here's the metallic texture I'm going to set up. So black values right here, this is where the wood is going to show through. So those parts are not metallic. So anything that's black on the texture, on the metallic texture, that will be displayed as a non-metal. And anything other than black, such as these values right here, gray to white, those parts are going to be metal. And here what an albedo looks like. And when it's displayed, when it's rendered, you're going to see a clear separation based on this texture. So there's nothing new here other than just having a more clear separation of metal and non-metal. So let's set that up. I'm going to open up Hypershade again, and let's create a whole new material. Redshift material. Let's rename it. I'm going to name this RS Metal Combo, or again, you can name it anything you want. And I'm going to go ahead and regraph it, so we'll clear everything in here. Graph network, and just go through the same steps so you get to see it one more time. Just kind of make sure you take the right notes and you know how to set this up correctly. So main material node, I'm gonna make sure I change BRDF to GGX, frontal type to metalness, go to color, diffuse, and checker icon, file, image name, folder, and let's go ahead and choose the castle gate albedo. Go back to our main node. Let's set up our roughness. File, image name, folder, and choose the roughness. Color space, change it to raw. Take our main node for the roughness. Open up out color, take the right channel and reconnect it into reflection roughness. Then go back to the main node again and set up our normal map. Again, we can set up the metalness. It doesn't have to be in this order, but just the way we kind of went through each of the materials, that's how we set it up. So let's go through and do overall bump map. Let's choose file. In this case, the menu did not pop up, so we're gonna have to do it manually. You can select the main bump map node, click on this icon right here, input, go to image name, folder, and then choose the normal map, and which is going to be this one right here. Let's load it up. Color space set to raw. Then let's go back to the RS bump map node, input map type, tangent space normal, and height scale to 1. And let's go ahead and just apply what we have currently to the objects inside that scene. So I'm going to close this down, select our objects again, right click hold, existing material assign, and do the metal combo. And let's do a render. Alright, that's already looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and zoom in and get a better angle. And let's go back to Hypershade and assign our metallic texture. So I'm going to select my main material node, go to Metalness, checker icon, file, image name, and then choose the metallic texture. change color space to raw. And let's reconnect it into the proper input using red, green, or the blue channel. Again, because I cannot see it right now, I'll click, first I have to make sure I select the main node, hit 2 to show only available inputs, open up out color for our metallic texture, grab red channel, and we drag it and connect it into reflection metalness. And that is it. Let's go ahead and take a look. And now we have the metallic property showing up only on the metals, and then the wood is a non-metallic. And that is it. That is how you set up a non-metallic texture and a metallic texture using Redshift Render in Maya with Metalness workflow.